Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Laugh and Learn. We are continuing our conversation about human design. If you've missed these videos, playlists um, are linked below. Feel free to go and view those. My guest, Jennifer, from My Holistic Self and Holistic Self Counselling, links are down below. And you also have this on your website.
I do.
So,
I do. So we're streaming on the website. I just made sure Facebook was streaming properly. Hopefully we're good.
Yes. So I'm TarotStache. Thank you for being here, everyone. And as always, this is for entertainment purposes only. Do not make decisions based upon what we say. Seek professional assistance. Really. So, Jennifer, what's going on with you? How have you been?
Good. Doing well. Excited to be here. Thank you so much. I always love these talks that we do.
So good. And if you're watching this and this is like the first one, particularly about human design, cut yourself a break, enjoy, listen, multitask. This is a lot of information to take in.
Yeah.
So, here's the definitive book of human design. We also have, as a reference, the gene keys, which we really haven't even started talking about.
We haven't even touched on those yet, really. I think the most that you get from those is on Twillo Talk every Monday at 5. Tanis and I do the energy update, and I'll talk about the transits.
Yep.
And in that, I do talk about the shadow, the gift, and the siddhi, or the enlightened state that goes with the gene keys. But other than that, we really haven't done a deep dive into it.
Yeah. And you created this human design coloring book and journal to help people process all of this information. And if you're wondering, if you go, Gerald, where do I find out about this? Well, there is a link below to Jennifer's website to where you can get your body graph done, which is going to help lead information. So, so there you go. And so,
yeah, perfect.
Thank you everybody for being here. I saw Kaylee, Y2 Social, chick from Ohio. Jonathan is here. So, and YT Social, that's a good question, but it's not a question that we're talking about today. We're specifically talking about human design. And in this show, we're talking about the 3 crystals.
Yeah.
Jennifer, what are the 3 crystals?
So this is kind of a foundational piece for human design. And actually for this episode, you don't really need your chart. Okay. So get your chart, dive into some of the other stuff, explore it for sure. But for this one, we're going to be talking about kind of what makes up all of what we are. And so it's going to be a bit different. And you may remember that we actually touched on the crystals a little bit when we did the talk about neutrinos.
Yes.
And then, we kind of have like this mention of them here and there. And so it's like, okay, it's about time we need to just really get into this. And these are the crystals of consciousness, right? So we're not talking about like literal crystals, that you can hold in your hand. What we're really looking at are energetic and more metaphysical constructs that form the foundation of who we are and our experience here. So,
and this is why we've been talking about human design. It is a way to understand how you are in the world, and help to support you to being your most authentic self.
Exactly. And I mean, human design, as you said, it's this blueprint, and you guys can go back into the other episodes where we really dive into all of what human design is. But Ra Uru, who channeled the voice, had this mystical experience back in, I think it was 1987. And all of this information was given to him and unfolded for years after.
Yes.
And it was during that transmission that the whole kind of creation was explained to Ra.
Okay.
So in this transmission, what came about was the voice explained that there was a yin egg and a yang seed, right? So yin and yang. And that within both of these, there was a crystalline structure that was said to contain all of the atomic material for the universe.
Okay.
And so when these came together, which you can call it the Big Bang, you can call it whatever you want, we can call it the creation experience, whatever it is. But when these things came together, the shattering released an infinite number of crystalline aspects, each one holding consciousness energy, right? So we look at that and go, okay, everything in life, and Ra talks about even inanimate objects, like everything has some of this crystalline consciousness within it. Okay. And so this is where the 3 crystals comes from.
Okay.
So we've got our personality crystal, our design crystal, and the 3rd crystal is called the magnetic monopole.
Okay.
Okay. And so each one of these crystals plays a really important role in how we experience life, in how we manifest our uniqueness, right? And just about our overall experience. So I'm sure you guys are like, okay, what are these things? So we'll dive in and go from there. And, as questions come through, just go ahead and, wherever you feel fit to stop me, we can do that.
I'm actually writing magnetic monopole into the chat so that we can reference that. Helps if I spell 3 correctly. So, and more people have come in. Thank you. It's great to see everybody. Appreciate it. So, personality, design, and magnetic monopole.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So,
and to follow back is yin and yang crystalline structures. When that shattered, all of those aspects dispersed and is in everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically like the building blocks of life, if you will.
I like that. That's even better. Building blocks of life. Got it.
Right. And you think about it too. I mean, we can get into the science of it, and I could geek out forever on the science of this stuff. But you get into like the quantum physics of things and all of that, or even just looking at the fact that, we are crystalline energy, and science is starting to reveal that we have liquid crystal within us, right? And so you look at that and go, okay, there is more to this than I think we sometimes realize.
Yes. So okay, where do you want to go with it?
Okay, so let's just break them down. First, we'll just do kind of a simple overview of each one, and then we can go from there. So let's start with the personality crystal. So the personality crystal, this is an aspect of the yang seed, and it sits just above our head. So you think about the crown chakra or the head center. It's just above our head. That's kind of where that energy resides.
Okay.
And it represents our conscious mind or our self-awareness, right? It's who we think we are.
Okay.
And I say that on purpose. It's who we think
we are.
Right? So this energy holds the blueprint for our thoughts, our beliefs, how we make decisions. And this energy comes in at the time of birth. So it aligns with our unique chart based on the moment that we take our first breath, which is why, when we're doing a chart, we need to know the birth date and time and all of that, because that's when this personality crystal comes in. So I have this chart here, guys, and I can just show you really quick. So this side here, this is the personality side of our chart. This is the time of birth. Okay. So that's that energy, and we'll deep dive into it a little bit further as we go. But the design crystal, so now we're looking at the design side here, which is the red side, right? The design crystal is 88 days before our birth. Okay. And this is the original yin egg energy. It's seated in the Ajna center, which is also in the head, but you guys know, like, the Ajna center, the Ajna chakra, same kind of idea there. And it manifests our biogenetic energy, so our physical form.
And that's in the design.
Yeah.
That's the 88 days. Design. Okay. So say that again. It defines our what?
Our biogenetics.
Okay.
Right. So our physical form. Right. It's again, it's the unconscious side, right? So our conscious side is our personality, and our unconscious side is our design. And it's about our unconscious mind, but it is also form consciousness. So we'll get into that a little bit. And then the magnetic monopole. I'm gonna break this down into a really simple way. And this is what actually is in a lot of Ra's teachings and the book of the differentiation, is he uses the analogy of the car, which is the vehicle, the driver, and the passenger.
Yes.
Okay. So the design crystal is the vehicle, right? It's the car that everything is riding in. So you look at that and go, okay, that makes sense. The body is what our consciousness and our mind rides in.
Got it.
Right? Whereas the personality crystal is who we think we are, and often tries to be the driver.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
No, because the personality crystal was only ever meant to be the passenger.
I like that. So the design crystal is the vehicle. The personality crystal is the driver, or not? Is the passenger? Is the passenger? Okay.
Right. But we'll see, and we can recognize this when we, take a step back, is the personality, who we think we are, often tries to take the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is where the website Passenger Consciousness comes from, is that idea of really recognizing where the mind and this personality side of us is meant to be, right? We're supposed to be just sitting in the back seat, enjoying the ride.
Yes.
Right. And it's the magnetic monopole that is meant to be the driver.
Okay.
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 So it's really interesting. Ra came out with this idea of the magnetic monopole. And actually for years, there had been, science and debate around if monopoles even exist, right? And there's a lot of controversy that you can find over that. But it was in 2009, I believe, that science actually began to acknowledge the existence of monopoles.
Wow. Okay.
So what's really cool is when you think about magnetic monopole, you know how a magnet has a push and a pull side?
Yes.
It's one or the other, right? Depending on the side, but each magnet has both.
Yes.
Right? A monopole is exactly that. It has one way. Right? It either only pushes or it only pulls.
All right.
Right? So when we're looking at this, we go, what is this monopole and what is its purpose for us? So the monopole is in our G center, which is our center for identity, love, and direction. So again, if we're going to look at the chart here, right? So we've got the crown center with the personality, the Ajna center with the design, and the G center here with our magnetic monopole.
Okay, so the G center is the magnetic monopole.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna pause because Brenda Z is here. Hello from Facebook. And Faith and Love said, "What if you don't know what time you were born?"
That's okay. There's a lot of different ways that we can handle that. If you run the birth chart at a couple different times throughout the day, you're going to get to see what changes happen. If you're getting a reading done, we can actually run a birth chart date range, which actually gives us a whole bunch of different charts throughout the day. And then we can look at what's different and explore what resonates for you. The most. If you know, okay, I was born at least in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening, that also helps narrow it down, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, I put that up there, Faith and Love, because there are some things that can be done with somebody who is skilled at this. There's ways to help determine that. So, and I agree, Hypnicity. It helps to have a visual. So we've got the design crystal, which is the vehicle. We've got the personality crystal, which is the passenger.
Yeah.
And then we have the magnetic monopole, which is the driver.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the definitive book, just to kind of give the image, right? They put it in as a limo. So you've got your vehicle there, right? And then you can see, here's your personality crystal back here in the back seat, and the magnetic monopole all the way up there driving.
What page is that?
It's page 22.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right.
Okay.
And it is a really great visual because, when we try to understand the dynamic of it.
It's a stretch limo because
it is a stretched limo.
Humans
it
may
just shows you to what degree that passenger is supposed to be in the back seat.
Yes. I love that. I love that.
As far back as it can go.
Just enjoy the ride, kid.
Enjoy the ride.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
So the magnetic monopole, because we haven't really dove into that yet. Like I said, it's in the G center, which is our center for identity, love, and direction. And it really makes sense in terms of, sorry, the dog's scratching at the door, in terms of how this plays out, because the magnetic monopole has two main functions. One is it holds us together. So it helps to bring the design crystal and the personality crystal together.
Okay.
Right. And it's the unifying force between these two. And it's a really mystical kind of union if we get into what that looks like. But it's about how these crystals can come together and move together through space and time. So having a lifetime experience.
Interesting. Hypnicity said, "What if I'm a backseat driver?"
We all are, except that we all try to actually take the steering wheel most of the time.
There you go. Yes.
So the more you stretch that limo, the better. And maybe even have a divider up.
Yes, a divider that's soundproof, bulletproof, all of that stuff. And you cannot control the windows.
Yeah. Yeah. Give that personality crystal very little power.
Yes. You're a passenger.
Yeah. Well, on the other side of this, right, the second function of the magnetic monopole is to guide us along life's geometric path, right? So when we think about the crystalline grid and fractals and how everything, is meant to unfold. And again, you look at fractals, quantum reality, and spirituality, and they all reflect this infinite interconnectedness of existence, right? And so just like fractals were passenger princess. I love it.
That's a good one, Sherry.
Yes, if only we could just be that, to sit back and just let it.
Well, yeah, and I would say this is really interesting because, thinking about these three crystals, it's really helping it's helping me start to understand the importance of recognizing what should be the passenger, what should be the vehicle, and not to confuse the two. It's like that idea of is sometimes the best worker does not make the best manager. There's different skill sets. So, okay. I'll let you continue. Please go.
No, I love that. I absolutely love that. And, it's interesting because especially when we're talking about spiritual growth and, all of this kind of transition to 5D and what does this mean and ascensions and all this kind of stuff, I think we get really caught up in the mind trying to figure it all out, right? The passenger is trying to figure out the game plan. It's like, wait a minute. This isn't how that's supposed to work. Right. And I think that we sometimes get into this habit of negating the physical. Right. And so the mind is taken over and it's, doing its thing. And the poor magnetic monopole gets kind of pushed out or ignored. and the mind just kind of runs, rampant. And it's about really being able to kind of pull that back and go, okay, hold on. How do I really want to operate in this world? And do I want to allow myself the opportunity to come into alignment? Or do I want to keep pushing and pushing and pushing?
Yes. Well, and Nalani said, everyone has a role to play. Finding your niche is the key. I agree with that, as well as the idea of is you don't want the passenger in the driver's seat or in the vehicle because there's no skill set for that. So what we can do, we can all grow and expand. But I'm not sure, well, for entertainment purposes only, I'm not sure if I want a passenger to drive most of my life. Because that's a pretty disconnected life.
It really is. And when you look at the roles that each of these play, right? The magnetic monopole, it has the GPS, right? It knows the route. And its role is to make sure that we stay on course, whatever that looks like, right? And the vehicle is giving us the structure. It's giving us the engine, the ability to go, the ability to move through the material world, right? Without the vehicle, nothing can happen here.
Yes. Yeah.
The personality crystal is really meant to just experience.
Oh, nice. Right? Okay.
And so, the personality crystal likes to kind of interpret the journey. And that's okay, as long as it doesn't try to take over based on those interpretations.
Okay.
Right? But ultimately, it's about looking out the window, right? And just being aware of what's happening. Right?
Yes.
Reflecting what it sees, offering insights and meaning along the way, but never trying to take over. Right? And when these are in harmony, we have a really beautiful journey. Right?
Yes.
But the moment that these become out of alignment, the passenger stops observing. Right? Because it's trying to take over. Right? The vehicle ends up not being well maintained. Right? And the entire journey just gets really, really challenging.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so the biggest work here is getting the passenger to remain a passenger. Right? And just to observe and experience along the way. Right?
Yeah.
And this is hard because My kids had me watching, oh gosh, I forget what it's called now. It's like some space show that was on Netflix for a while. And the cartoon character kept thinking he was the captain of the ship. And the ship, and he was like a prisoner on the ship. And the ship kept being like, no, Gary, you're not the captain. He's like, I think I may have heard that before. And then he just continues on with thinking that he's the captain. And this is what's coming to my mind right now as we're
It's so true. It's so true.
talking about this.
Yeah.
But, you know, we do this, and we do this all the time, where the personality crystal, the part of us that, you know, thinks we are what we are, right? Anytime we say, I am ... that's the personality crystal speaking, right? And it's, again, it's our thoughts, our preferences, it's how we process information.
Yes.
Right? You know how we talk so often about like the mental narratives that shape our perception, right? Our sense of identity and who we think we are. This is all the personality crystal. And so, you know, when we recognize that, we also begin to recognize that it's not necessarily true. Right? How often do we talk about, you know, challenging our narratives and challenging our beliefs and being more open to what's possible and all of that kind of stuff. And so, you know, as we're going through this process, we look at it and go, okay, this idea of who I think I am is like one part of this experience, and only one part of it. Right? Because it operates in partnership with our design crystal, right? Our personality crystal can't operate without the design crystal.
Sure. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And the design crystal can't operate without a personality crystal, right? Like, there has to be this connection, and the magnetic monopole is what makes that connection. And there's a lot of stuff in the chat going on. I'm not reading all of it. So if
I was going to catch up. Hershey has arrived. Hello.
Hello.
And if I could afford a personal secretary, I might be able to achieve great things. You know, and just like a car needs all of the systems to work, we need each of those entities to move through life. Yes. And was it dogs in space from one parent to another? Jonathan.
I will have to ask the kids what it was called. It was it was an adult cartoon.
Oh,
like I say the kids, but my kids are teenagers, and it was definitely not a kid specific cartoon.
And Angela is saying your energy and smile are lovely, and they are feeling much lighter than when they joined.
Thank you.
Faith and Love said, it's so hard to just get in the back seat. Sit down and shut up, though.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. Yeah, which is why I always like to drive. So, you know, read into that however you want. Jonathan did ask earlier, it makes me wonder how having an undefined centers in the monopole area shows up.
Yeah, and so when we look at undefined centers, we're looking at an inconsistent access to that energy, right? So the magnetic monopole is still there, and it's still your driver, but in the world and how we operate, you just have inconsistent access to the energy of that center. Right? It doesn't mean that the monopole is inconsistent or anything else. It's just when it comes to love, identity, and direction, because those are what that center kind of guides, that you'll be more versatile, right? You're going to be more fluid in those areas. And so that's okay, right? That's part of what your monopole would guide, is how to ebb and flow through those things.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Okay. Yeah. So the design crystal, which is in the body and is the body, it anchors our physical existence to right? The body. And so when we look at unconscious aspects of who we are, it's our health, our genetic makeup, right? Our instinctual drives. We've got a lot of that, and that's all part of this design crystal, right? And so because it was activated while we were still in the womb, right? 88 days before our birth,
Yes.
this is our design imprint, right?
Okay. Okay. Yes.
And so it really does translate into kind of the shape of our unconscious energies. Right? So it's still there while our physical form is developing, right? So it has to do with our physical form and how our body operates, but it also has a lot to do with our instincts, right? The habits and behaviors that we have, but we're not necessarily conscious of. Right. And so I often will say, you know, when we're looking at the lines, right, this is the line that when someone says something about you, you go, yep, that's me. This is the line that when somebody says something about you, you go, yeah, I get that a lot.
And did you notice how she's describing that? Because they're similar, yet one has a different, yeah, I get that a lot. You know, not willing to believe it.
Yeah.
So.
And we don't necessarily associate ourselves with it because it's not what our mind has access to.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
And then, you know, we look at that and go, okay, when we try to explore our connection to like collective energies, that's also part of this design crystal.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Because it carries ancestral wisdom as well, right? It's in the Ajna center. And so it's forming this unconscious framework, which is influencing the way that our mind and body integrate. And it carries this, you know, this kind of collective energy. So when we talk about doing like ancestral healing or even past lives healing and stuff like that, it's the design crystal and the magnetic monopole that we're working with.
Interesting.
And the personality crystal, as continues to be the case, needs to get out of the way.
That poor personality crystal.
Everything we think we are needs to go sit down and be quiet.
Well, yes. Yes. Yeah. Calm down.
Yeah.
Sit on that naughty stuff for a while.
Well, and it's you know, I think the other fascinating part of this is
where she said I was talking about design this morning during meta messages. I'm paying attention. Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and okay, so this is the other thing that's really fascinating when we look at it, right? So our personality crystal is bringing awareness, and it's trying to make decisions, right? But the personality crystal is a this lifetime crystal.
Say that again. It's a this lifetime crystal?
It's a this lifetime crystal.
Okay.
Right? Our personality crystal is established at the moment that we're born, based on when we're born. So it's unique to this lifetime and unique to each lifetime.
Okay.
The design crystal and the magnetic monopole have this really intricate relationship because it spans lifetimes.
Okay.
Okay. This is why the design crystal carries the genetic and energetic blueprint for us. Right. And then the magnetic monopole, which is guiding us, it's guiding our continuity of our soul's journey across these incarnations.
Okay.
Right. And so together, they're ensuring that our physical and our energetic experiences are going to align with this like broader trajectory of our growth, right? So we talk about like soul contracts and all of that kind of stuff. It's our design crystal and magnetic monopole that are all part of that development and setup. Personality crystal just comes in for this lifetime going, cool. This is going to be that singular expression of conscious awareness that's going to be shaped by the transits and the planets and where they're at the time that I'm born, right? To bring this kind of new or fresh perspective or unique set of experiences. And it's new each time because it's meant to bring us through new experiences each lifetime. Right?
Yeah. Wow. Jonathan is like so fascinating. And hypnicity is, I wish my parents would have known this. And Hershey shared the gems hidden deep within. I understand this, and it is part of my 2 feet and a heartbeat. 2 feet,
2 feet and a heartbeat.
So
nice.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
It really is fascinating when we look at, kind of how this is all put together. Right. And the way that it works. And it's so interesting because, I think about how the magnetic monopole is what bridges the personality crystal and the design crystal. Right. And we look at that and we recognize that, we do need both in order to have this experience, but our design crystal is bringing with it all of this past understanding and all of that but unconsciously. Right. And then we have this personality that comes in and it kind of just takes over. And if you really look at it, without that magnetic monopole kind of guiding this process, these two are not going to get along.
No, I was thinking that. It's just like going, it's going to be the 2 kids arguing all of the time. And once they move out of the house, they're never going to talk to each other again.
Yeah. Yeah. And in a lot of ways, that's true. Right? Because the personality crystal, after each lifetime, it's done, and then a new one comes. Right? So it's just a fascinating thing when we look at it in that way. Now,
go ahead.
Our bodies aren't even ours yet. So when we look at
we should have a manual when we were born. Well, part of the manual is human design. So, yeah.
It kind of is, Brenda. And it's fascinating, too, because Ra actually talks about how human design has come in at this time. And yes, the adults have to learn it. But the whole purpose of us learning it and understanding it and embracing it is so that the next generation can come in a world that is honoring their design and where they're at and learning to live that way, because that's part of human evolution.
Part of human evolution. Okay. And Nalani asked if they have studied twins and how they differ.
Yeah. Well, and again, if you really know, like down to the second of your birth, you will be able to see changes.
Slight variations.
Right? Slight variations. And so even with, identical twins who maybe have the same chart, if you're looking even at that slight time variation, there's a variation in lines, there's a variation when we get into the personal health system and all of that. And so there's going to be nuances of difference in how that shows up.
And I have to put this up. Hi, Gary. Twin Tarot with Gary and David said, yeah, I was wondering that too. I think David took a lot of the personality. Because, it's the name Twin Tarot. Well, what does that mean that you have, Gary? If he took all of the personality, or, are you big on the design? Now I'm curious. I would totally love for the 2 of you to go. If you could figure out the minute or the second, get your grafts done. Yeah,
and see what the nuances are and all of that, because it is really quite fascinating. And how that unfolds. I do have some charts for twins, and it is a really neat thing to see how subtle nuances can make huge differences.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here you go. Yeah. So David is all wands and swords. I am pentacles. And Gary, are you also cups? Because why does he get 2 and you only get 1? So,
Mm-hmm.
and to Faith is like, I'm sorry, I'm new to this. How do you get a natal? I'm not sure if that. You get a body graph following the link in the description, and anything else you want to say that, because it's free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's free.
And it's
Go
easy
ahead
to
and
do.
get it.
So, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
talking over you.
No, it's good. It's good. Yeah, just go to the link in the description, go onto the website, and I can walk you through it really quick. I think we have a bit of time again, if you want. Let me know if you can't find it and I'll walk you through it. But if you just you can go to either website, myholisticself.com or passengerconsciousness.ca. Both of them, you'll see human design in the offerings, and click on that and you'll see, you just fill the information in right then and there, and it'll pull up your chart, and away you go.
I tried to put it into your chat, but it won't work because I'm not a mod to be able to do that. But,
oh, okay.
But and seriously, it's really quick, and this stuff is free. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of information, and as I say with all things, take it little bite by little bite, because it is a lot.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
good.
Sorry.
Found the link. Perfect.
I'm a rambling. But I'm glad everybody is here. Please do us the favor and verify that you are subscribed to both of our channels. We are simulcasting this, and it's also, so it's going to Jennifer's Facebook group and both of our YouTube channels. YouTube has been doing some things. Just verify that you are subscribed.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So, and Faith found the link. Good. Thank you.
Good.
So these are, okay, so the personality crystal is it the yang energy?
Yeah. So yeah, if you're looking at the breakdown again, right? We talked about in the beginning the yin egg and the yang seed, right? And so again, whether you keep egg and seed or not, that doesn't matter, but that idea of the yin and yang energy, right? And so the personality is the yang energy and the design is the yin energy.
Okay. Jonathan asked, do you have any charts for couples to compare individual charts?
Yes.
Well, and that's something that you can offer. It helps to understand. It's almost like, because you're able to marry people. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I am an ordained minister, and I can marry in Ontario.
and I would almost say that what could be fun is like, before I will marry you, you're going to get a little lesson in human design. So do all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's beautiful because the charts, like a companion chart, where we're looking at that, you're going, okay, it pulls up both of the charts and then it gives you the chart together, right? Because whenever there's two energies together, they're not individual energy anymore.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
It makes a third energy.
And so, we look at that and then you go, okay, if there's a small group, it's a penta, a big group is a wall. It's a whole other level of human design that we could get into. Yeah. But what ends up happening is we have electromagnetic channels. These are channels where each person has a gate and it makes a channel that they don't have on their own. There's dominance channels where one person has it, the other person has nothing in it. Mm-hmm. There's compromise channels where both people have one gate, one person has the other gate, right? And these are channels where the person who has the full energy may not always listen to the person who only has one gate, and may kind of override the other person in those areas, or not hear them or listen to them. So we look at those dynamics and go, okay, there might be something here, right?
Well,
and then companion gates is where you both have a gate and not the other, right? And so,
and I think it's really fascinating because this is simply a way for us to understand who we are, how we engage with the world, and what our natural drive is about. And so, and Hershey said, I have read my chart and found so much about my design and path. Very true to me.
Awesome, Hershey. Very cool.
Yep.
And it is. And what's really beautiful about any of these, right, especially when we're looking at it in terms of these crystals, I love what Ross says about how this is our mechanics, right? It helps us to not take everything personally. So you think about, okay, my partner and I had this thing that happened. And let's say I always tell my partner this particular thing and they never listen to me and they never do it and blah, blah, blah. My personality crystal can be like, woe is me. My partner doesn't love me. They don't respect me. They don't listen to me, right? And get into this whole big story, right? About the experience, as opposed to just going, okay, that's an interesting experience. Now what? Magnetophonical, what do we do with this?
Well, you just did something important there. Instead of trying to figure it out on their own, they're going, okay, magnetic monopole, what do we do? Where do we go from there? So you're, instead of being individually dealing with it, the different aspects, you go to the G center for that information.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really neat too, because when we look at the magnetic monopole, okay, so we talked about how a monopole operates, right? And so for us, this magnetic monopole is only ever attracting experiences, people, and opportunities that align with our unique path.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, now think about that, because people are like, why do I keep having this thing in my life, and why do I keep having that thing in my life, right? If your monopole is driving, these things are being attracted to you in order to help you along your journey. If that passenger keeps taking over the wheel, that may not be the case. Right? So, we're not going to, how we have people say like, oh, everything happens for a reason and all of that kind of stuff. And when we're in alignment, that is absolutely the case. Everything has its purpose and its reason. When we're out of alignment, it still has purpose and reason, but often it's just to show us we're out of alignment.
And that's a very powerful thing. In case you're wondering what I'm doing, people, when you see me doing this, I'm taking notes. And Jonathan did share he had an intro session with you. And she told me so much about me. I was awestruck. That's cool.
Awesome, Jonathan.
Gailey said, you said my parents' relationship must be, quote, very interesting, end quote. And you aren't wrong. Yeah. Yes. Well, yeah, that's exactly right. And part of it is knowing how to allow for the other's needs. Because if you're speaking French and I only speak Spanish, there may be minor similarities, but we're not really fully understanding it at a deep level. Yeah.
Well, and again, we look at this and we go, okay, the personality crystal, this part of us that one is unique to this lifetime, right? It's a singular expression of our conscious awareness. That's it, right?
Okay.
So we look at that and go, okay, this kind of individuality can bring a fresh perspective. That's why it's watching, right? To have that fresh perspective. But when we get really caught up in this is who I am, now we have all of these rules around it. this is how I'm supposed to be treated, and this is how you're supposed to talk to me, and this is how I want to be loved, and this is how I feel connected, and this is the only way that I'm going to do, right? And it builds and builds and builds, right? As opposed to being, the passenger and going, oh, okay, I don't really like how that played out. Now what?
Yes.
Right? But it doesn't get that, the magnetic monopole is not going to get that self-righteous indignation or that kind of part of us that takes over, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like, okay, this is part of our journey. Let's just keep going. And if the passenger is just observing, they're going, yeah, okay, this is an interesting journey, right? And we can notice like, okay, this part of my journey, I'm not really care for. What else is possible here, mm-hmm. right? And by not taking over, that magnetic monopole is going to move us through and then eventually out of that into a new experience, right? But how often do we recreate experiences over and over again, right? And where does that come from?
Yes.
That's this personality crystal.
Yes. And again, all of these are important. We have all of these. I mean, I guess what would happen, everybody does have these 3 crystals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And they're all important.
Yes.
Right? Like I'm talking about the personality crystal and saying like it can't be the driver, but that doesn't mean that the passenger isn't important.
Well, yeah, because the passenger's there so that the driver has something to work off. Because if you don't have a passenger, why are you wasting the gas?
Why are you going anywhere? Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. And life is more fun when you travel with others, I think. And,
mm-hmm.
And again, everybody might not think that. Okay, so I do have to ask this question because believe it or not, we're at 15 minutes already.
Holy moly. These just fly by.
They do, yeah. The passenger chooses the music and changes the radio. Only if that is agreed upon before the trip. The snacks to make sure that the driver has what they need. So people are seeing this and it's like the 3 crystals. Let's ask, okay, so personality crystal, design crystal, and magnetic monopole. You had mentioned these are not physical crystals. They are part of the crystalline structure, the crystalline aspects of ourselves.
Right.
But do crystals come in play? Can they help support these things?
Oh, why not?
It's a rhetorical question. I knew the answer to that.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, right? Like it's not like we have this actual crystal just sitting right here, one that's sitting right here, and one that's sitting right here.
Yeah.
But the energy of it is there, and you look at the energy bodies that we have, the chakras, the aura layers, the work layers that we have, all of that are all going to be part of this energy. And then we look at the fact that there's a crystalline grid over the earth and the earth's experience, right? Mm-hmm. And now we have these fractals that the magnetic monopole is working with in order to move us through these experiences and attracting opportunities, experiences, people, all of that to us based on those fractal lines, right? And so if our personality is saying, well, I want more wealth, so I'm going to bring in these crystals because I want that to happen. If the magnetic monopole is saying, hey, look at these really cool crystals, let's bring them on our journey, very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
And I think crystals are a wonderful tool for many people along their journey and the experiences. Yeah. So I think as crystals are tools, other than simply being beautiful.
I love crystals.
They're simply beautiful. And so, do you need actual physical crystals for this? Absolutely not. Perhaps you are crystal enough to be able to, and if you allow your magnetic monopole to do its job, I mean, you may be pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, and again, we look at this and go, okay, if in this beginning, whatever that is for us, everything was imbued with this crystalline consciousness, right? And we talk about it, and anybody who works with crystals knows that crystals have consciousness. They have an energy, they have all of that, right? And so being able to, as I say, we'll sit with a crystal, right? And bring that crystal in and go, okay, is this crystal meant to journey with me?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And we're going to know yes or no. Yeah. Right? And the personality might go, yeah, but it's pretty. I want it. Right? But if that energy doesn't come together, it's like, okay, but this crystal might be for somebody else. Let me find another one.
Right? Yes, that relates very much to the idea of kinesiology, allowing your body's energy to tell you a yes or no in response to something.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, so where do we go from here?
Well, I guess that depends on what everybody wants to dive into. I mean, we could switch gears and go over to the gene keys. We could look a bit more in the personal health system and what that looks like. If you guys want to do a deep dive into fractals and quantum reality, we could do that too, right? Like there's a lot of different places we could go. I guess it depends on how much you want to stay in the know thyself realm or.
Yeah. I think, and we can talk about that and allow people who, if you've watched this and you've been watching these, do leave comments under the videos, because that does help. Big takeaways. Check with me. All of the crystals are important. And the personality is the conscious side, shows up at birth. It's specific to this. It's specific to this lifetime.
Yeah.
It's selected. Design crystal is really, it's the unconscious side. It's what's followed us around multiple times. It brings us forward. It brings the past. It is our link to our history. And the magnetic monopole, it's that GPS, and let it be the driver, because it's your G center, and it's the go between those two other crystals.
Yeah.
Okay, what have I left out?
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to break it down and simplify it, magnetic monopole is our higher self.
Okay.
It's guiding our divine wisdom towards our soul's evolution. Right? Our personality crystal is our ego self. Right? It's valuable, but it's temporary. Right? And it's just a tool for navigating this material world.
Okay.
Right? And it's just about experience and experiencing. Right? And our design crystal is about embodied wisdom. How can we ground our spiritual insights into the physical world and collect and connect with the collective and ancestral knowledge that's available to us?
That's so good. Are there last minute questions for those who are still watching? Because if I encourage everybody to go and look at your website. It has a lot of useful information that takes some time to work through. This isn't a one and done thing. This is I'm curious about this. And then what?
Yeah. Well, and Ra talks about 7 years of deconditioning once we start this journey.
Really?
Right? And there's a reason for that, because there's so much to it. Right? And there's other people who go, yeah, well, you can just do this or just do that and not do it. But there's there is something to be said for the process of deconditioning all of what we think we are to becoming what we truly are.
Isn't that interesting? And from a big perspective, we're in 2025, and 5 years ago there was a significant change on planet Earth that has, would you say, started some or deconditioning, or has changed the conditioning?
It's made a drastic change.
Yeah.
And then we can look at the prophecy of 2027 and go, wait a minute, that's 7 years from the previous thing.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So. So, of course, it's Jennifer at My Holistic Self. Links are below. Where will you be next?
In a couple hours, 2 hours to be exact, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard, I'm going to be doing Twillo Talk with Tanis, and we have a very special guest that actually changes Twillo Talk a little bit to TarotStache.
Yep. Uh-huh. And you and Tanis just on Saturday was it Saturday? Yeah, Saturday you did the readings for people once a month. You do that.
We do live readings once a month, and we also put out on YouTube. It's just a 6-card reading. Mm-hmm. And if you join Twillo Lifestyle membership, which is still free, so it's totally worth it, we do the 22 card reading each month.
Nice. Very nice.
For the month. So
I am on Twillo Talk at 5, and I'm doing a Mystic 4 tonight. Then Tuesday, Jamie and I are doing a back and forth, and it's the stickers edition. We're playing with stickers.
That's fun.
So, but because some of you are already the best chatters, you know that you like and subscribe. That way you'll be notified. And I have to say thank you for being here. And we appreciate you being here. And we'll see you in a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
And then we get to figure out what we're going to do next, everybody. So stay tuned. All right. Bye.